Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Professional Development Day at RCC. Dr. Helmick has asked me to represent him this morning. He was called to a meeting this morning in another city and would like to, on his behalf, welcome you to what I hope will be a very positive and informative day that contributes to our learning as members of faculties and staffs at not only RCC but other institutions that are represented here today. You have your program booklet for today, and it's full of very diverse and I think exciting opportunities, and hope that you have made arrangements to take advantage of as much as your day will enable you to do. Dr. Helmick's statement of welcome is found on the inside of your booklet, and he wanted me again to reinforce his commitment for our institution in making professional development opportunities available for us all. He comes from that background at his prior institutions, and it's very important for us, and so we're very glad that he is supportive of efforts in this direction. A couple things I would like to say just as a way of thank you. On the inside back of your booklet are a number of recognitions of appreciation, but would like to pay particular thanks to our Human Resources Office, Dana Husky and Joy Chappell, and to Christine Wilson, our Director of Distance Learning, for significant work that they have done to help make this day possible. But also to our college's Professional Development Committee and its volunteers who are giving of their time and effort in not only shaping the day but helping with the logistics of our day. And also a thank you to the North Carolina virtual community, the North Carolina Community College System, and NCCCS. Our day's activities are provided to us by way of a grant from the RCC Foundation. And we felt it was important that we make everyone aware of that, particularly in a time in which all of the community colleges are mindful of the remainder of our fiscal year and looking ahead to what will be a very, very challenging fiscal year. We're very fortunate to have a foundation at RCC that funds a number of our initiatives, and so today's event is paid for by the grant from the RCC Foundation. So when you see Gay Clifton or Diane Heiler or happen to know any of the members of the foundation board, please thank them, because this day is made possible by their support. I have the pleasure of introducing our keynote presenter, Dr. Darryl McGraw, who currently serves as Vice President of Information Technology and Information Technology Services and Chief Information Officer at Wake Technical Community College in Raleigh. Let me tell you something briefly about him. Dr. McGraw began his journey in the community college system in 1979 as a lab assistant at Southeastern Community College. From there, he joined the Army and continued his education, eventually ending up at NC State. He served our nation for 20 years in the military. He earned his bachelor's degree in computer science at North Carolina State, would earn an MBA from Campbell University, and his doctorate also from NC State. But he says that he is most proud of his associate degree that he earned at Southeastern Community College. He also earned certificates from UNC as a certified government chief information officer and from Harvard's Institute for Leadership and Management. Dr. McGraw has served as the Director of Information Technology at Vance Granville Community College, as Dean of Information Technology at Johnston Community College, becoming Associate VP for Instructional Development and Technologies, and is in his current role at Wake Tech, Vice President of Information Technology Services and Chief Information Officer, where he served in that role for 10 years. Please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Dr. Darryl McGraw.
Okay, so I got to tell you that I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that guy can't keep a job, but I have been at Wake Tech for about 8 years, and I'm very, very grateful and thankful to have an opportunity to get out of the office today, especially on such a nice drive. It took about 2 hours to drive, but it flew by really, really fast. And I got to tell you, it reminds me of where I went to community college. I would go and visit my mother, who unfortunately passed away summer before last. And I would go right by the National Guard Armory, right by the community college to her house. And it brought back a lot of good memories of me getting my degree at Southeastern Community College. And he was right. That is the degree that I'm most proud of. It's the degree I certainly learned the most in. So the title of this then is going to be FTE Instruction Manual. And in graduate school at NC State, they tell you that you cannot have a title that is less than a paragraph long and has to have at least one colon in it. So strategies to fuel growth and create efficiencies. I'm going to show you a couple of tools today that I think you'll enjoy seeing. And I hope the demonstrations make a little bit of sense to you. So first of all, I'd like to show you this picture. Does anybody remember doing that as a kid? So your mom would make a cake. I come from a big family, and so we would fight each other to be able to lick the spoon and lick the bowl and all that kind of stuff. So we'd get a spoon and we'd get as much as we could get out of the bowl, and I knew my favorite brother was a genius when he got a rubber-tipped spatula, and he could use it to scrape everything out of the bowl, and he was a genius. And that's basically to a big extent, that's what we have to do to scrape additional FTE out of our service area. And there are ways to do that. We just have to have the appropriate tools. I do have to explain my bias. So in this picture, you see it's a nice picture. It's a mama bird feeding the baby bird, but he's standing on the baby bird's brother's head in order to do it. And you could say that this bird is showing a little bit of bias, right? Well, I have a little bit of bias. I've been in information technology for about forever. I actually started at Southeastern Community College with the idea of being a French teacher. Now I was going to go to college. I was going to get a degree in college transfer to St. Andrews in Laurinburg, and be a French teacher. I can't really tell you why in mixed company, except to say that her name was Anne Garceau, and she was an exchange student. But I saw my first computer there, and it's been love ever since. Now you might be thinking, why in the world is some IT guy going to be talking about FTE, and why is some IT guy going to be coming to talk to us anyway? So I'm sure you all have heard the old joke about, how do you tell the difference between an introverted IT person and an extroverted IT person? Well, the introverted IT person, when he's talking to you, he looks at his shoes. And when the extroverted IT person is talking to you, he looks at your shoes. So, but there is a lot of tools that you can use for FTE. And it all depends on your perspective. To grow the college, to get FTE, to increase the efficiency of programs, you can do a lot of things. And from my perspective and my bias, information technology is a great way to do that, because you have a lot of new tools that you can use to get FTE not only in your service area but in other service areas, as we'll see in a little while. This perspective is sort of new. Distance learning in general hasn't been around that long. The community college system has been around for, I guess Rockingham is 53 years old. Wake Tech, we're having our 50th anniversary this year. And back 50 years ago, there were some mad presidents who were doing this, and they devised service area boundaries, and the rule was that you couldn't go recruit out of service area boundaries. So we'll talk a lot about that perspective in a few minutes. And the perspective, there's always a different perspective. For instance, the pessimist says the glass is half empty. The optimist says the glass is half full. The IT person says the glass is 2 times bigger than it needs to be. So there's always room for a new perspective. And so I'd like to put my remarks in context. One little comma makes a big difference in context. So the difference between these two statements is, one is, let's eat, Grandma, and the other one is, let's eat, Grandma. And that one little comma makes a big difference. So in context, I'd like to tell you that information technology isn't the end all and be all, but it does have a place, and it does have a tool. It is a tool that you can use to grow your programs. You can increase quality. You can prevent cheating. There are all kinds of things that you can use it for, and it can certainly enhance the experience. So I'd like to tell you a little bit now about some financial history. In 2008, that was a bad year. That was a really, really bad year. And unfortunately, I had just left the system office to go work for Wake Tech. And one of the things I really liked about it was the fact that they seemed to have money, compared to other places that I worked. And wanted no offense for the system office, but there were weeks when I couldn't buy paper clips at the system office. You can't make long-distance phone calls. Don't make any copies. If you want to make notes, just write them on your hand. That kind of stuff. And I see Wanda's nodding her head going, yep, that's right. But they seem to have money. The budget was good for all community colleges within the state in 2008, up to 2008, 2009. Then the bottom just fell out of the sky. It looks like retirement was negatively affected. In this cartoon, it says the 401k went down to a 201k. That's the way a lot of people felt. Budgets were cut drastically. And here's the thing. In times of economic trouble, the economic downturns generally drive people to come back to school. Like somebody who might have a degree in one field and loses their job may end up doing something else, something different. So people were trying to retool their skills, and there were a lot of state programs during this time frame that allowed people to come back and get an additional skill and find a job doing something else in a different field, and that was wonderful. The effect that it had was to increase FTE all over the state. Almost every college, if not every college, had some increase in FTE. And times were good, except for the fact that were funded in arrears. So let me talk about funding in arrears for just a second. This college and all the other colleges in the system, our whole system is funded based upon our performance for the last year. And so, everybody knows that. So your budget FTE for this year is based upon your audited FTE from last year. And I guess that's okay, except for the fact that when you're growing, you might be 10% or 5% or some percentage higher than you were last year, and you need that percentage more resources. You need that many more adjunct instructors, that many more full-time instructors, and you also need that many more support staff. The support staff to get things done, like counselors, financial aid people. You'll need custodians, and of course, IT people. So the improvement in economy sent people back to college, and then, unfortunately, what happened is the economy started to get better, and then FTE rates of increase started to get worse. They started to drop, and now. I think this was announced at the last President's Association meeting, that only 6 out of North Carolina community colleges in the whole system are actually growing. And that makes it even worse, because what happens is we're keyed up to support this level of students, and so you have all these resources, and then students come to expect that level of resources. Well, what happens is when they're expecting this level of resources, and then the budget FTE is cut based upon performance from the last couple of years or so, it overloads the staff. So it overloads the staff and makes it. Sometimes morale can be bad because of it. Because, like for instance, this is a true story. We only have a couple of people working on our Blackboard server. And we're a little bit understaffed in that area. And this is a bad time to have problems with Blackboard, because people are trying to take final exams, and many instructors are trying to prepare for the summer session. And so it's just a really bad time to have any kind of problems. Well, for last couple of weeks, we've had one person who's in the office by about 5:30 to check for a crashed application service. And then I say goodbye to her when I'm leaving about 6 or 6:30 or so. And she's certainly overloaded. And that happens to a lot of staff. It happens to people in financial aid. It happens to student services. All of our support staff can tend to feel overloaded. It makes the students mad. Yeah, don't you love that picture? So it makes the students mad when they have a certain level of resources, and then all of a sudden they don't have that resource anymore. Like, for instance, advising. Advising is a wonderful resource that helps students know exactly what to take. Advisors are wonderful to guide students along their academic program. But if you have to wait 3 or 4 hours to see an overworked advisor, that's not a good thing, is it? No. So any student service that students come to expect, if that service is cut because of budget, it's a bad thing, and the students get cranky. And I had to respond to several cranky students over the weekend, and that's not a fun thing to do. I'd rather do more fun things than respond to cranky students. So in addition to making the staff overloaded, making students cranky, it also makes faculty cranky too. And that makes a lot of sense because of the fact that we're all here for student learning. And from your perspective, it could be assisting faculty in teaching, or providing some support service, or actually doing the teaching. But if you have fewer support resources, then that's going to overwork you as a faculty member, and you guys would have to deal a lot more with the crankier students than people in support services as a general rule. So it can be a bad thing all around. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about IT auditors. So every year, every college has to have an audit, an FTE audit, and they also audit IT. And so there's all kinds of jokes about IT auditors, like, why did the IT auditor cross the road? Because he looked in the file, and that's the way they did it last year. And so there's a set of processes and procedures that we all tend to go through as we do our instruction, or as we provide support services for instruction. But we often get caught up in the fact that this is the way we've done it, and this is the way we've always done it, and we don't have the resources or the time, and in a lot of cases the energy, because we're overworked, to look at other ways of doing things. But there are certainly other ways of doing things, and I'd like to talk a little bit about them. First of all, I think we can create efficiencies by leveraging support resources. So support resources, that would include all the student services, IT services, the business office, facilities, and things of that nature. We are all on the same team. We're all on the same team to provide instruction, student learning, and faculty teaching, and things of that nature. So research shows, and my experience shows, and I'm sure your experience shows too, that proactive student services can increase retention and recruitment, can increase it. So what can you do? What can you do that y'all haven't already done? Well, we've struggled with that at Wake Tech for a while. We have three new software products that we've been using. One is called Maxient. It's a third-party software product that helps us to look for and identify behavior problems. And that has turned out to be a really good service for us. We use orientation as an online service. We use, let's see, there's another one, Integral, which is a social media type service to help us recruit and attract students via social media from high schools into our admissions process. So all those different tools are wonderful things that student services and recruiters and admissions officers can do to attract students and to retain students. And the common theme throughout all of that is there's an IT component to it. Because in information technology, we have to have a way to be able to authenticate the students, and students want to do everything online. And let me just prove that statement. Students want to do everything online because they always carry their devices everywhere they go. How many people have a smartphone on them right now? So that's connected to wireless? How many people right now as we speak have more than one device on them? See? Anybody have 3? I like you. Anybody have 4? I have 4 with me today. Yeah. So students demand that type of service. And so no matter what service we're providing as a college, whether it's instruction or financial aid or counseling or whatever, there's going to be an IT component to it. So proactive student services. Hassle-free administrative services also make it easier to attract and retain students. Hassle-free administrative services. Well, what does that mean? Well, let me tell you a story. This is a picture from my bachelor's degree yearbook from I guess it must be 1980. This is in Reynolds Coliseum at NC State University. And how we did anybody here go to NC State at that time? So do you remember the lines in the Coliseum? Yeah. How do you like those lines? Yeah, exactly. So what we used to do is we would wake up early in the morning and try to be the first one in line to go get the classes that we need. If our roommates had the same major, we would trip them on the way out of the apartment to make sure that we got in line first. And you could spend hours, all day long standing in lines just trying to register for a class. And Lord help you if you had to drop something. And so it would often take from 8 o'clock in the morning to 11, 12. If you had a problem that you couldn't resolve that day, it often would take days to do adds and drops and everything else. Thank goodness those days are gone. We don't really have to worry about that as much anymore as a system because Colleague has Web Advisor and some web registration tools. This is one example of a process that was totally transformed and automated through the use of information technology. And there are a lot of other administrative processes that we can do to create efficiencies and to make students' lives easier. For instance, do you guys have a form for graduation? You have to fill out a form? Yeah, most people do, right? But there's been a trend lately in colleges and universities all over the nation to try to automate forms. So for instance, when you're ready to graduate, you don't fill out a form and walk it over to the registrar's office. You go online, you go to the portal, log in, authenticate yourself, and then you fill out the form online, press the enter button, and boom, you're 100% guaranteed that they have it. And so those types of processes do in fact create efficiencies in administrative processes that kind of decrease the hassle factor for students. So the question is, how do we get there? How do we get to the point where we can decrease the hassle factor for students and use these types of tools to attract and retain students that otherwise we wouldn't have been able to do? Well, I don't mean to put anybody to sleep, but let me show you a couple of statistics from EDUCAUSE and give you one more piece of my bias, meaning that information technology is the glue that I think holds all of this stuff together. And you might be thinking, okay, well, I was having a good time up until this point, but now he's gone from preaching to meddling. Well, information technology is ubiquitous, and there's an IT component to almost everything. I mean, in most colleges and higher education in general, all over the country today, there are almost no jobs that do not require IT. For instance, we outsource our janitorial services at Wake Tech. Our janitorial service has email addresses, and we submit work orders by the web. So even our outsourced janitorial service has to have access to technology. Every position, facilities, everybody has to have access to technology nowadays, and it's not something that you could easily do away with. We can probably make it much more effective and more efficient, but certainly couldn't do away with it. And we have to know the strategic value of information technology as it pertains to all the different things we do through our life. I want to give you this statistic right here. EDUCAUSE is the national nerd organization for higher ed. And it is a group of IT professionals in higher education that do professional development and things of that nature for colleges and universities all across the world, not just in America, but across the world. And they have this thing that they call their core data survey. So every year they take a survey of IT people, all over the country and for colleges and universities all over the place. In North Carolina, we do not do a good job of keeping up with the average nationwide. So according to EDUCAUSE, and this is just for community colleges, 273 student FTE per each IT member. Well, if most of our colleges in the North Carolina community college system had that as a benchmark and then adhered to that, then what that would mean is we'd have to build a separate building just for all the IT people that we had to have around. And in many colleges and universities now, it's a trend all across the nation that what used to be referred to as a utility is now a valued business partner. And 71% of colleges and universities all across the nation now have their head IT person reporting as a member of the president's cabinet, sometimes directly to the president, sometimes to an EVP. And in some organizations, they might report to the chief administrative officer or the chief academic officer, just depending on, basically the whim of the president and others. I like to show this picture, and for my colleagues like Carlos who have seen this 5,000 times. It's okay for you to sleep during this slide, Carlos, if you want to. But this is Raphael's painting, The School at Athens. And it's a composite of a bunch of different philosophers over the ages. And what I like about it is that it shows that all over time, throughout the past 2,000-3,000 years, the goals and objectives of higher education have not changed. They haven't changed. It's still to educate students. How can you tell? Well, you can look at this picture. First of all, right over here, you see somebody cramming for an exam because they stayed out all night partying. Here's a student who's just laying around on the furniture in the student center, just taking up space. Here's somebody following around the professor saying, "But please, I need some extra credit." So the concepts and the goals and objectives of higher education just really haven't changed in 3,000 years since the time of Socrates and Plato. What's the difference between then and now? The tools that we use. The tools that we use now are awesome. I remember some of the tools that I used when I was in grade school. Anybody remember the mimeograph machine? Well, I was cranking those blue copies out all the time, and you get a little dizzy smelling that stuff. Thank goodness that tool is departed now. But thankful for us, we have new tools in order to help us to accomplish our goals and objectives. And so speaking of goals and objectives, information technology then is a strategic resource for everybody within the institution. Everybody within the college, it's a strategic thing. So there's a gentleman named Mark Weiser who, I guess it was 20 years ago, over 20 years ago now, coined the term ubiquitous computing. And what that goes to say is he recognized a trend that has continued to this day where computers are everywhere. So I have 4 internet-connected devices with me today, and there's at least one with 3. Their computers are all in our car. I used to have the capability of doing tune-ups on my own car. No, not anymore. Can't do that kind of thing. So technology is ubiquitous and part of everything that we do, especially the teaching and learning process. There are two concepts that I'd like to tell you about, tactical and strategic, and I'm sure you've heard these things before. Tactical being how you do something, and strategic being why you do it. I bring that up because every college needs a good method of IT governance, and that's to govern the access to scarce resources. So scarce resource, what do I mean by that? Well, are there any IT people in here? Yeah. So the guy with 3 devices, okay. So Do you have all the stuff you need? Nope. Nope. So I would submit that almost nobody has everything, 100% of what they need in terms of personnel or equipment, travel funds for conferences, repair parts, minor equipment, all that stuff. So the question is, how does an institution of higher education go about making priorities? Well, IT governance is the way to do that. So IT governance is a trend that has been, it's been around for quite some time. And there's actually a couple of different methods of IT governance. One is ITIL. Anybody ever heard of ITIL? ITIL? Yeah, I see a couple heads nodding. It's the Information Technology Infrastructure Library. And the reason why it relates to higher education is because a lot of colleges and universities have adopted that as a way of providing, to prioritizing resources and providing those resources to faculty and staff, especially for distance learning and computer labs and things of that nature. So IT governance, well, what is our purpose? I love this cartoon. He says, wonder why we're here, what's our purpose? And then Hobbes says tiger food. And notice over here, Calvin can't sleep anymore. I love that cartoon. But our purpose, what's our purpose? Well, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Wake Tech and how we, over the past few years, have put together our IT governance and come across a couple of nuggets of, we had some aha moments, So first of all, in the interest of full disclosure, this is Photoshop. This was taken right after these two buildings were built on our Northern Wake campus, and that stuff is hay. They wanted to take a picture for a brochure, so they had seeded the ground and they put the straw over the grass seed, and so our marketing department couldn't stand it. They needed something with grass, so they went and they colored all the straw green. But I wish they had turned the water blue too, but that's a different story. But so pardon me while I read this. It says, the mission of information technology at Wake Tech is to support student learning, faculty teaching, and college operations through the use of information technology. You would have no idea how difficult that was to arrive at. Because no matter, unless you're an instructor directly in the classroom, you have a different perspective. And rightly so, you have a different perspective. So if the purpose of a college is to educate students, then everybody should be engaged in that activity, right? And so this should be everybody's mission statement, no matter what service. For instance, if you work in the business office, then your goal would be to support student learning, faculty teaching, college operations through business services. So this took us actually a while to get there because there were fights. I don't mean arguments, I mean fights. Maybe not fisticuffs, but certainly heated differences of opinions as to what services were more important. But the fact is, it's all important. We're all on the same team. We're all doing the same thing for the college. So I've got to tell you this story. I love this picture too. So there was a man who was hired to paint the road in the middle of the line. Stop me if you've heard this, Carlos. So a man was hired to paint the middle of the line in the middle of the road. First day he did great, painted 5 miles. Second day he painted 3 miles. Third day he painted 1 mile. The fourth day he did a half mile or so, and on the fifth day he hardly got any done. So his supervisor had to fire him. Said, you started out very strong, but you just kind of fizzled out after a while. How come? And the guy says, well, every day I got further from the can. So the reason why we need mission statements like this one, the reason why we need mission statements like that is because we're going to have short resources. We're going to have resource shortage. We're not going to have enough equipment. We're not going to have enough people. We're not going to have enough things to do our job. We have to do a good job of making sure that we are cognizant of what our mission is. And just for your edification, these are how we prioritize the things that we do in IT at Wake Tech. And this kind of priority has caught on in other areas, especially our facilities area. So the first thing that we handle are whatever emergencies happen. And the next thing we handle are the regular requests, work orders and things of that nature. And then we do maintenance and finally projects. And unfortunately, our projects sometimes our projects take a little long to get to because we're busy working on maintenance and work orders. But we finally got a good way of doing IT governance and making sure that everybody had a voice in saying where scarce resources went to. So now that we've got our roadmap together, we know all about our mission and goals and objectives. We know where we want to be. We know that we want to use IT as a tool to create additional FTE and additional growth within our institution. So how do we do that? Well, let me show you a real map. This is the map that I shamelessly stole from Wanda's website, the system office website. And when you take a look at this, what you see some lines that aren't so thick, and then you see some lines that are real thick. Well, the thick lines represent the county areas that are the service area borders for a college. So, for instance, Vance Granville right up here, they have 4 counties in their service area. And don't you know that the new president up at Vance Granville has a hard job going and talking to 4 different sets of county commissioners all the time trying to get funds? That would be tough. So that's what the thin lines represent as opposed to the thick lines. Now, if you take a look at this map, let's take a look at where Rockingham is and all the powerhouses that are around it. So you're surrounded, Rockingham Community College is surrounded by Guilford Tech, Forsyth Tech, there's Alamance over there, let's see, Durham is pretty close. So all these big community colleges, so the question is, what will compel a student from Greensboro to drive up to Wentworth for classes? What would compel a student to drive up here? Well, if there were a unique program, that could do it. But there's not a whole lot. If I lived in Guilford County, I'd probably go to Guilford Tech too. I probably wouldn't drive to the next county. It just makes a lot of sense, right? Well, the good news is that for distance education, we're not bound by service area boundaries. So, for instance, if I wanted to start up a new program at Wake Tech, I could not go and advertise in Durham County and say, send your students over here, come over here to this school, because if I did, then the president at Durham Tech would be waiting for my president in the parking lot after school, if you know what I mean. So they get cranky about that. And being at the system office and being in some board meetings, and Wanda, I see you smile, you know what I'm talking about. There have been some disagreements between presidents. Usually they're civil. Sometimes it's really fun when they're not. So there are no boundaries with distance education. Well, I'd like to tell you a little bit about a couple of tools that you might not have considered. Some that are pretty recent developments that you can use to be like the little kid in the picture I showed earlier with the frosting bowl. You can use the rubber edge spatula and scrape all the FTE, not only from this service area, but from surrounding areas and other areas, even out of the state. It's not uncommon for people out of the state, especially military people, for people like Fayetteville Tech and David Smith. But what I've got up here is a screenshot of a website from NCCCS. So now the question is, has anybody ever heard of NCCCS before? Yeah, the IT guy, right? So NCCCS, the Microelectronics Center of North Carolina, was created to house the North Carolina Research and Education Network, and that is the internet service provider for the university system. And now, thanks to my friend Bill Randall and also to Wanda and everybody else at the system office, everybody's ISP is now NCCCS. They have some tools that are being woefully underutilized, one of which is the ability to dynamically digitize and broadcast and then archive sessions. So, for instance, if you wanted to have a class that you could broadcast to anybody, anywhere in the galaxy, and I say galaxy because they do have the internet on the space station, you can use this tool. So let me just point out a couple things on this tool. This is a web page. It's all run by Java. And you can connect by video to this digitizing device, and it sends up to 512 separate streams to people all over the web of whatever it is that you want to send. Not only does it send a video stream, but it sends two. It sends a computer stream and then a talking head video stream. So let's think about that a minute. You could have a class where 512 people could sign up, and they could take that class at their computer in real time with video and PowerPoint. I'd like to give you a quick demonstration of it. So I'm going to break out of this presentation and see if this works here. All right. So what I have here is this is a single event. Not only does this work well for a curriculum, but it works great for continuing education, and especially one-time events. This is a one-time event. We have what's at Wake Tech what's called a Futures Series. We got a grant from SunTrust Foundation, and we provide this event for for professional development for all kinds of people. And we had something like, we had a room full of people in person, and there might have been 30 or 40. But close to 400 people logged in and watched this. We don't have very many rooms that hold that many people. So this is one way to be able to attract larger audiences from outside of service area boundaries. That's perfectly legal, and other people are doing it. So these buttons over here allow me to control the size of the screens and the location of the screen. So for instance, here let me go ahead and start this.
We do have some online viewers, so for those of you that don't know Dr. Scott, he is now entering his 10th year here at Wake Tech Community College. He has 35
So I'm just going to turn that down a little bit so so Virginia doesn't drown me out. So what you see is a video stream and a PowerPoint. They're swappable. You can make one bigger, one not. You can do different things with them. You can make one overlay the other. So the end user, the student, has the capability to to control what their client looks like, and the tools that are available to you will allow you to know who's logged on, how many people are logged in, that sort of thing. And as you can tell, the video is actually pretty good. At least it looks good on my computer. It actually looks pretty good up here too. And as you can tell, the audio.
Company since 7 o'clock.
The audio is synced with the video, so it's pretty good video quality, right?
7 this morning. A number of them about 4.
So let me go ahead and stop this. So thinking about that's a very powerful tool. How do you get access to that? Well, let's see. I'll show you an email address that you can use to contact Robin Kimball. Robin Kimball is the liaison for MCNC for the community college system, and she's great. She's an advocate for community colleges. As a matter of fact, I wish we could hire her, Wanda. Because she does such a good at making sure that we have all the resources we need for this and other types of presentations. This is great, again, for online, real-time instruction that can take place once or multiple times. And the thing is, it can also be archived. So one of the things that you can do to increase FTE and to increase the reach of your programs, and this is especially good for under-enrolled programs, you can use this tool to reach out both inside and outside of your service area for those FTEs. This is the link for the archive of the session, and the reason why the archives are important is if you have a curriculum course, for instance, you can archive every single session. If somebody can't make it on that day, well, you've got an archive and they can listen to it. So one other real quick demonstration. I'd like to introduce you to my friend Ray. This is Ray Timms. This is a screenshot of a software product called Movi. So let me just tell you, one of the first things I did when I was hired to be the Director of Information Technology at Vance Granville Community College almost 20 years ago was to put in an information highway classroom. And at the time, it was prohibitively expensive. We got a grant, otherwise we wouldn't have gotten it. But the equipment and the modifications to the room and everything else cost about $130,000. And that didn't count other equipment that we put in later. $130,000, that's a lot of money. There's a lot of money now, but it's a lot of money back in 1994, 95. So what this software does is this software gives you the capability of turning your laptop into a fully functioning information highway classroom. So, one little $800 laptop can replace $130,000 worth of equipment. So what you see up on the screen is an H.323 video stream, IP addressable, et cetera, with picture-in-picture of me talking to my friend Ray. So I'm doing this presentation on a little tiny laptop. It's all wireless too. It's not even wired into the network. But I'd like to show you how simple it is to use this. And the reason why you might be interested in it, this tool is available to you for free thanks to the system office. Thank you, Wanda. So this tool has the capability of transforming any classroom, any laptop, the possibilities and permutations are just endless. So this is all there is to making a video phone call. Let's see, I'm going to call Ray Timms. Here we go. I hope he hasn't gone to the restroom or anything. I told him to expect me.
Hello, Dr. McGraw.
Hi, Ray. How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah. So I am demonstrating now the Movi Jabber client from MCNC to everybody here at Rockingham Community College's Professional Development Day. So,
Well, hello to everyone.
So I'm going to turn on picture-in-picture so I can see what you see. Let me see if I can turn this around without. So, look, are you nervous yet? Look at all those people. Are you nervous?
Everybody's waving. Hello, everybody. Nah, I don't. I used to perform in front of crowds with my bluegrass band, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so, what's your website? RayFamilyBand or TimsFamilyBand.com?
TimsBluegrassBand.com.
Oh, yeah. Go to that website.
Yeah,
Awesome
EMS.
bluegrass music.
And we're available on iTunes if anybody cares to.
Okay. So in the business, that's what we call a shameless plug. So as you can see, throughout this technology, it's possible to establish person-to-person video connections. What we've done right here is we have established a one-to-many connection. We can have experts like soon-to-be Dr. Timms to lecture us on all kinds of stuff. What would you like to lecture us on today, Ray?
I'm sorry?
What would you like to lecture us on today?
I'm still having a hard time hearing you.
I'll get closer
Get
to
a
the
little
mic.
closer to the microphone.
Sorry about that. What would you like to lecture us on today?
Oh, well, I was going to show that we can do little things like have a PowerPoint up or whatever the case. But I wanted to show people, hang on just 1 second here. I mean, anything from documents, Word document, whatever the case may be, you can share any items you want, frankly. Here we go. This is a book that I'm starting to read, The New Digital Age, which I think is a fascinating book. So highly recommend it. Do you all see that on your screen?
Yep.
You do? Okay.
Yep.
And so, in other words, you can share, items that you want to look into and web pages, whatever the case may be. We find that Mobi works extremely well within our system and obviously outside of it. And it's the price is right, and it actually does quite a good job. So that's pretty much what I would say.
All right. Well, Ray, thank you very much for letting me interrupt your coffee drinking. And
Wait a second. What coffee?
all right. Well, thanks a lot, and I owe you lunch. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Well,
Talk to you
everyone
later.
have-
All right. Bye-bye. So what we have here is a tool that has the potential to change the way we deliver video education. So instead of building a $130,000 NCIH room, or what do you guys call yours here? Yeah, so they've been called VTC rooms, or video conference rooms, or video classrooms, et cetera, et cetera. So a couple more things to share with you, and then we're going to be done. I don't want to stand in between anybody's lunch. Okay, so then a couple of strategies then that you can use to generate more FTE. First of all, what we saw with the web broadcast, that uses media site technology. That's not necessarily free, but you can connect to it using a Movi client. So, or you can connect to it using a video conference room or a video classroom. And so what this gives you the capability of doing is to generate video classrooms from 1 to 100, well, actually 512 people all at the same time. Any laptop with a webcam will work just fine to do this. And as you can see, that it was going from a little tiny MacBook Air. I didn't need a $130,000 codec. So Robin Kimball, this is her number. Her email address is rkimball@mcnc.org. That's our liaison. Yes, ma'am.
Can you make this ADA accessible? How can you make that accessible? Like, let's say you wanted to store a class session for use on the internet. How would you make that accessible? Is there some kind of speech to text or vice versa maybe?
So this does not have any kind of speech to text capability. However, there's a new product that Cisco just announced called Cisco Show and Share that you can give it a file like this, and it comes up with all the closed captionings and everything else. That's a really nice product. Kind of a weird name, but the product is great. So that's who to contact at MCNC if you're interested in this kind of technology. The second thing I'd like to share with you as a strategy in our last couple of minutes is ISA agreement. These informal agreements with other colleges are especially helpful, especially for low-enrolled programs. So if you have a unique program that you want to share with other colleges, you have some instructors that have some unique skills in certain areas, you can share these skills with other colleges. What the system office likes to see is these instructional service agreements is that students at one college take the Gen Ed core at their local college, and then they take distance learning courses to complete the degree that would come from the offering college. So this is another strategy that you can use. The next strategy here is video classes to the desktop. So there are all kinds of different permutations and combinations. So since time is starting to get a little bit tight, I'll just glance over that pretty quickly. But I would like to spend a second or two on this slide. Another strategy that we can use to increase, at least increase retention and to make student experiences more pleasant is to offer support services via video. So using the tool that we just saw, the Movi Jabber client, it would be possible then for students with the appropriate technology or access to the appropriate technology to be able to get counseling. We use a similar technology to do counseling for students, for transfer students who are in our AA and AS programs to transfer to NC State, Carolina, and other places with which we have articulation agreements. So these types of advising office hours and things, it's not, you don't have to have them, but it certainly makes a student's life more easy. It makes it more convenient if a student has a question about about what they need to take next, or wants to talk to an instructor during office hours, then a student is home, no need to jump in the car and drive all the way to campus. Just do it online. So it is something that can make life easier for people. Another strategy is to just take all these tools and your goals and objectives and just mix and match all the different permutations and combinations. And a great way to get started using these types of tools is to identify a course and then do a pilot. So, for instance, my friend Jonathan Vester at Nash Community College, they had instructors that were really good at what they did, but they didn't necessarily like going to the prison to teach courses. And do you guys have a prison in your service area here? No? No. Yeah, well, there are prisons all over the place. They're almost ubiquitous too, unfortunately. And the community college system as a whole does a pretty good job of providing education to incarcerated people. And research shows that it reduces the recidivism rate. So it is a good thing, and it's good for the college too. But to get through the security and everything else is kind of a hassle. So we have instructors at Nash Community College who started piloting this by using the Moby Jabber client at their desk to provide courses through a room like this, just a regular classroom with a projector in it. And they love it. The students love it. The instructors love not having to go to the prison. So it works out really, really well. So, yeah, that's one of my favorite slides. So I would encourage you to do to think about a pilot test that you can use with one or both of these types of technologies. Right now, as we speak, Ray is getting ready for. We're having a professional development day at Wake Tech too. And Ray is doing a session on using video broadcast. We typically have our sessions sold out at about 50 people per session for large classrooms, and 20 to 25 is the limit for the smaller classrooms that we have. But there are hundreds that are signed up for the professional development session that Ray is going to do. And it's going to be broadcast. As a matter of fact, if anybody's interested, it goes on at 2 o'clock, and I'll get you the URL if you wanted to check it out. But you never know unless you try. So I would recommend coming up with some type of pilot test for using one or more of these technologies in a new and innovative way to see how it works for you. So, questions? Yes, sir. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we up until about a year ago, we didn't have a police department at Wake Tech, and we had some security guards. Really didn't need anything, but we had 2 lockdowns. One right after the other. There was somebody wandering around on campus with a shotgun. Well, right outside campus. Turns out it was just a hunter going down the Neuse River, and got a little bit lost. So he's walking down the sidewalk in the heavily populated, wearing funny clothes and carrying a shotgun. After that, there was something else that happened. Somebody threatened to come to campus to kill their girlfriend, and so the police were called and another lockdown. So shortly after that, we got a police department, and one of the things they wanted to do was to be able to track behavior problems. And we had no mechanism to do that. I mean, you could fill out a form if somebody you thought was a flight risk, but I mean a risk to public safety. But we really didn't have a very good way to do that. And so this software Maxian allows people to lots of different people, like an instructor or a security guard or a public safety officer or anybody to make a report about suspicious behavior for a particular student. And not anybody can do that. I mean, if I got mad at Joe down in the other room, I couldn't go on and say, Joe said he was going to blow you up. You can't do that. But it is a way to track people that may present a security risk. Yeah. And it's all legal. Yeah. So more questions? Well, if not, Christine, I made it with 1 minute to spare, and lunch is in room 105 right outside. Thank you very much.